And as usual, we will start with short breathing, mindful breathing exercise, watching the breath mindfully. Then we can try to generate a good motivation, intention for being here by thinking by us coming here together with the best intention, giving our precious time to listen to the lecture and to engage in discussions and reflecting, contemplating on what we have talked about. May all of this become cause and condition to transform our mind, our heart, so we can reduce and overcome those harmful, negative, disturbing, negative emotions, thoughts, feelings. And may it become cause and condition to increase and improve the positive thoughts, feelings, emotions. So we can find more peace in our mind, in our heart, in our life, more happiness, to become more kind, compassionate. So we can become more wise with more wisdom. In having cultivated and improved those positive qualities, inner positive qualities, so that we can be more and better help to other sentient beings, directly and indirectly. And especially those who come in contact in our life. And may it become cause and conditions to develop all the spiritual realizations and achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So not only we can be help and benefit, but to be the best and greatest help and benefit. And not only to some individuals, but to each and every sentient beings. So that way we can try to generate the intention and inspirations for that. Okay.
We will do the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, which is on page 73 in your prayer book. We'll do it 3 times in English. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sujata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clay, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sukata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya plane, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. And then on page 97, we will do the short mandala offering 1 time in Tibetan. Sajito ki Geshe meto Samira Lenshi Yidegem Pali Sangye Shindu Midewai Logun Namadashin Chepasho Guru Rana Mandala Raniyatayami. And we'll do refuge and bodhicitta before the teaching, once in English and twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Shodan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Partu Dani Kyatsuchi Dagi Shunin Ige Sonam Ki Rola Penche Sangye Drupasho Sangye Shodan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Partu Dani Kyatsuchi Dagi Shunin Ige Sonam Ki Rola Penche Sangye Drupasho.
So before we actually start this particular short text, I want to kind of give a little bit of overview. Last time we finished one short text called "Learn of the Path to Enlightenment," written by one of the great Indian masters around 10, 11 centuries. And it is, as the title says, it's the path to enlightenment, gradual, step by step to enlightenment. And the one we are going to study is also commentary to that. And once you study both of them, then you will see how they complement each other's. A lot of the topic that is explained in more detail in that, it will not so go detail here. But some of the topic that has been touched in that, but hasn't gone detail, then in this commentary, they go detail. So it complement, because some of the topic that has explained more detail in that one, in the root text, the author here will not go so detailed in that, because, and then some of there, it touched there, but it doesn't go detail there, then he will go more detail here. And so, and that is purpose of the commentaries, when in certain root texts, when they don't go details, and so sometimes it needs to be more detailedly explained. Sometimes it's not clarified well in that, and so they need to clarify. And so that is how it complement each others in that way. And this text is written by a Tibetan master, Lama Tsongkhapa, who is the founder of this lineage around 13th, 14th centuries. And his, of course, his practice, but also in terms of his writings, his knowledge is compared to some of the great Indian masters, earlier masters of Nalanda traditions. His Holiness Dalai Lama was sharing, one of Lama Tsongkhapa's writing, they translated from his Tibetan, so he wrote all in Tibetan. In recent times, some of them, they translated in Sanskrit. And Dalai Lama showed one of those translations from Tibetan to Sanskrit to one of Indian scholars, Buddhist scholars, great Indian Buddhist scholars. Not a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, but he's a Buddhist practitioner, Indian Buddhist practitioner, but a great scholar in Sanskrit and Buddhism. And he showed that and said, if you can compare his writing to some of those great Indian Nalanda writing and what he thinks, and that scholar says, he can be compared to among one of the best of the Nalanda traditions in India. And he's highly respected by all the different traditions in Tibetan Buddhism, and he himself studied under all different lineage, he had teachers from all different lineage, and then there are certain things that he clarified that has not been clarified the earlier Tibetan masters, and that is why it became kind of unique, and that tradition lineage started. It is not like he wanted to start a new lineage. He just started to teach and share what he learned from all his studies from different masters, as well as especially he studied a lot of Indian classical teachings, going back to the earlier sources. And then he found certain things by going to the earlier resources where that has not been clearly mentioned or explained in earlier Tibetan writings or by the masters. And his clarification on certain point of that. And so and then he attracted many of the great scholars from other lineage as well, who started to follow him. Two of his main disciples, Geshe Rinpoche and Kedu Rinpoche, they were great scholar and teacher from different lineage, Sakya lineage. But later they heard about his reputations. They went to come and see him, just listen to him, what he has to say, because they heard. And they themselves were great teachers and scholars from the other lineage. And they were so touched by his explanations, his teachings, and they started to follow him, and they become some of the main disciple of him that you see in the whether it's painting or whether it's statues. The two disciples, actually, they've come from different lineages, and they were great scholars already before they met him, and they were also teachers in their own lineage. But so that was how it started, in the Lama Tsongkhapa, the author of these commentaries. And so he wrote 3 commentaries on this same root text of Adishas. Great Lamrim, which is like 500 pages, more than 500 pages, with the reasoning, logics, example, and a lot of quotations from earlier writings of Indian masters and sutras. Then he wrote a more middle Lamrim. So he took away a lot of the quotations, but then in order more based on just the practice itself. So those for people who doesn't have so much time to study in so all details, then to make it more easier and less, so then he composed and write this middle Lamrim, which is probably like 300 pages, And then this is the most contents or short Lamrim, and it is called a Song of Spiritual Experience. And you see that in many different writings. You see in Indian writings, the songs of many, siddhis, Mahasiddhis. Also in India, in Tibet, you see, Song of the Milarebas, and those are like spiritual songs. That spiritual songs are mostly that they started to recite from their experience, not it's not like a kind of like you decide to write and think and then write like that. Most of the experiential songs are they're expressing in the form of songs, so normally that is what the song of spiritual experience are like that, so that is their experience, is more than scriptural is more of their experience. Sharing their experience in the form of songs, So, and the topic of the Lamb to the Path, and here is as the title itself says, it is the path to the enlightenment, and we might have heard so many different topic or subjects on Buddhism by reading it, by listening, whether Zoom or audio or from other teachers here and there. We hear about karma, we hear about emptiness, we hear about refuge, we hear about loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, generosity, moral discipline, meditative concentration, all different practices, all different topics, but sometimes we get lost, which one should I focus on? Should I focus on this one? Should I focus on this? Where should I start? Sometimes because there are so many different practices, so many different topics, sometimes we feel like we're lost, And the Lamrim path is where it helps us to see where to start and move where next systematically, spiritually, to the very highest enlightenment until we end. So in that way, it's very, very helpful, beneficial. It's like when you go to school, you have certain study when you are kindergartens, class 1 in school, high school, and college, university. There's a systematic. So we know where we are, which level we are, and what we study, and next what we will be studying, and next what we will be studying. So we have all, and so it's easier. It's easier. And that is how everyone follow to really get expert in whatever knowledge field they want to expert. They want to excel in. Of course, there will be exceptional, even in school, exceptional children, who might not have to follow all of this, just like you have some children born genius, Sometimes there's genius who doesn't have to follow this system all the time. Maybe they might be able to go to the very higher immediately, and they can learn much more immediately, Where some children take 3 years, they might be able to study that all this topic, all this subject in 1 year, or even better than that. There will be some exceptional genius in every field. In same way in spiritual, there will be some practitioner because of their past practice, imprint and past, where they can make quick progress, and in terms that where they can start from certain point immediately. But for those who are starting from the very beginning, who have not made those points, then we know where to start, and then if we follow. So it is really helpful in that way, and we know those different topics that we have studied, we have heard, where those fit within those paths, you will know, oh, this teachings fit within this particular, in this class, like that. So in that way, it's really, really very, extremely very beneficial and helpful to evaluate ourselves by seeing what our immediate kind of practice, our realization, and then compare with that which progress, and where we should make more effort, and then move towards the next step, and what the next step will be. Another way of putting is, that you heard about, before we hear about, let's say, different states, about we hear about different states, you learn about those different states, what are there to visit, and what are the beauty, history, and all of that, but you don't know, you have heard about those different places, different states, but you don't know how they are connected from which state to state. If you have to go, then oh, if I have to travel from here to East Coast, then oh, first I go to this state, and I know what are there, and then next I have to go this state, and what they are there, and then wherever you want to go, Before that, we know there are those, but you are unable to connect where they are, each of them, and how they lived from one state to another state, and all of that. And so this lumbering is that something like the roadmap, the whole roadmap to enlightenment, where you begin and when you next step to the enlightenment. So it's that whole roadmap, and it's really nice to have that roadmap. mm, yeah. Traditionally, there is a way to before we start teachings, that there is some teaching on the life story of the author itself. But I don't think I will go so detailed, but what I can say, he is one of the most instrument in Tibet to start learning institutions, Before that, a lot of monasteries, they just did the rituals, Many of the monasteries, they just did the rituals. They don't have the depth studying. And when you don't have depth studying, you don't have depth understanding of those teachings. Some of them monks, they do rituals, they don't even know why they do the rituals. They don't know, and they don't know the detail about all this ritual ceremony. They just do it, So he was one of the instruments in studying those learning institutions like the university. He started, like the Nalanda was one of the great learning institution in India, famous. Some of the scholars think that is one of the first international university in the world. Even around 7th, 8th centuries, it was so famous that a lot of students came from China, and many other Southeast Asians who came to India to study because of so well known that. And so Lama Tsongkhapa was one of the main figures in establishing all these learning institutions in Tibet. Some of the biggest studying monasteries, he and his disciples started. He established the Ganden monasteries. One of his disciples established the Devung monastery. One of his disciples established the Sherab monastery. One of his disciples started the Tashilubu monasteries. One of his disciples started under his encouragement and his guidance and studied the Gyuden Gyume Tantric College. And all of these are not just rituals, but really learning institutions. And then that has impact on others' lineage as well. Then some other lineage teachers also started to focus on studying, not just rituals, but actually focusing on studies, because if you don't have depth understanding, so then, even you try to do practice, you might not be able to go in the depth, Sometimes people do practice, but they don't know what they're doing. So to really have a better understanding why you do that way and what is the purpose of that and how you do it and how each of them there is a purpose and so knowing all of that, it requires studying and that. And so in that way, he's really instrument in that. And also he was also one of the main instruments in bringing moral discipline, especially within the Oden community. He, all of those studying established learnings, moral discipline very important. Put a lot of focus, because earlier sometimes there has been cases where practitioners are not being so morals not pay much attention, moral discipline was not a big focus, they didn't pay so attention, but he very much emphasized on that, and that has also impact not only in his lineage but also on other lineage, because other lineage also started to see the benefit of that, and then they also started to put more kind of focus on that moral discipline as well, and that is important, especially within the Odin Sangha communities. Of course, it is a very important practice for any practitioners, but especially for those. And in terms of his writing, there are 18 volumes that he have written on all different subjects, topics. 18 volumes. Each volume might be 400 to 500 pages. Some of those volumes. And not just one topic, in all different topics. And His Holiness always says, and when you read his writings and you compare with others, also one of the qualities, unique quality of him is he emphasized very much, reasoning logic and going back to the early sources. In his writing, there is very few where he says, because my teacher said that. That was never his case. My teacher used to say that, or my teacher said that. He will always try to go back to the earlier Indian masters' writings and compare with them, and if it is more correct to that or not. So using his own judgment, reasoning, logics, comparing different writings, and then coming to certain conclusions of that, that is very unique of that one things. And to do that, you should be able to study all of those, and when you read his writings, you are amazed, where did he get all the time to read all these so many Indian masters' commentaries, because he will compare what this commentary of this master says and what this commentary and this master says and what this commentary and this master says, and then he will say, according to all of that and this reason logic, this is how I feel it. This is what my conclusions is. Sometimes he might not make any conclusion. Sometimes he will just say, these are the different commentary, what they said. And a lot of time he will make a conclusion, his own conclusion, based on those different commentaries and what they say and his comment. And it's very unique. I think it opens your eyes to all those different commentaries. And if you're interested, then you can read go to the early sources of Indian texts and masters, and then you can actually read those commentaries and this commentary and what the difference is and all that. So, it is also really great way of opening your mind if you are interested to more further, going back to those earlier sources and studies, And then the unique of his is when it's easy subject topic, he wouldn't go so details. When it comes to difficult point, when a lot of teachers and masters find difficult topic, then he will go more detail in those ones. That is another unique of his, When it's easy to understand, he will not go so details because there's no need to go details because it's quite easy. But there are certain points here and there where it's very difficult and where there's differences among different teachers, differences between different commentaries and difficult point. And there is a differences because it's a difficult point. So different people interpret differently because it's not easy, that can be interpreted easily. And when it comes to those kind of points, then that is where he go actually much more details, And yeah, and he was extremely not only a great scholar, but great practitioner, masters. You know. Dedicating himself not only everyday meditation and practice, but also he totally took off from teachings, writing, dedicated himself more than 3-4 years just doing practice. And then of course he was practicing every day as well, you know. So he was not only just great scholar, but great practitioner, you know. And he has even achieved high realizations of middle concentration even much earlier in his life, you know. One time he was so in deep meditation when they were having ceremony finished, everyone's left. He was not even aware of that because he was so deep in that meditation, so deep, you know. So anyway, and he was not interested in any kind of fame, reputation, wealth, money, you know. At that time, the empire of the China sent someone to ask him to be his personal teachers, spiritual teachers. You know, very powerful, very rich empire of China at that time. Sent missionary, what you call representative or someone to request him with all the offerings, you know, so many offerings, and he didn't accept it, you know. He just said that he didn't even give an audience to him. He escaped, he ran away, you know. And then again, the empire sent second time. I don't know when exactly. I don't remember exactly how many months or years. Again, another request with again a lot of offerings, and again he was not interested. At that time, some of his disciples, friends, say, no, maybe you should at least give him an audience, you know. So he gave them audience and got all the requests, and he said he can't make it. He's unable to make it. He will not be. But if he's interested, he can send someone. So then he sent someone, one of the disciples, who started the Sherab monastery. You know, so he went, and he became the kind of. So he was not interested. You know, if someone is interested in power, wealth, reputation, fame, who doesn't want to be the most powerful empire, most powerful in that? So that all of that shows he's detached to all of reputations, fame, name, money, wealth, you know. So he, even though he was had so many great disciples, great scholars, thousands and thousands of students, he lived very simple. And his example has had a strong impact on that um, rest of his disciples and coming generation as well. You know. So that is a little bit about the author, okay? Lama Tsongkhapa, okay? I think if you want to read, there are many. I think there is one by Tide Jimba, I think, or Lama Tsongkhapa's. There's a few different biography, you know, by different teachers and masters. The one by Tide Jimba, I don't know whether it's the translation of the one of those biography or whether he compiled, but I think I might have seen, I haven't read it, but I think I might have seen the title of the book. I think Maybe he might have come during the celebration of 600 years since Lam Tsongkhapa's in the recent years, celebrating 600 years of Lama Tsongkhapa passing away. So anyway, so those who are more interested of his lives, okay, you can kind of, at least I think I know there's something about him by to the Jimba. I think other ones, I don't know whether there's English translation or not. Most probably that could be. So that is the, okay. So then the text itself is Song of the Spiritual Experience, contains points of the stages of the path, okay? The Tibetan title, Lamrim Nyamgur. Lamrim means Lam means path, Rim means stages, the stages of path. Nyamgur, it means, Nyam means experience, Gur means songs, the spiritual experience songs, okay, of the stages of the path. So many of the traditional writings, classical traditional writing, would be it Indian writing or be it Tibetan writing, which is, there's always the kind of the introductions, the actual body of the writing, the path.
They don't have people going to their kingdom temple or whatever, the way they come in their Buddhist center.
And then there is at the end. So then there is at the end, okay. And so at the very beginning, there is the homage. So then first making homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, the founder of the Buddhism in that. And then he paid homage by remembering or recollecting the excellent qualities of the body, speech, and mind. Okay, and so here it says your body is created from billions of perfect factors of goodness. So billion here doesn't actually really mean the number billions. It's a kind of poetic, some poetic. It's on many. It just means many. Okay. It doesn't mean actually exact number of billions. It is just a poetry way of saying many. Sometimes they use also oceans. Also, that doesn't mean really ocean. It just means many, lots. So here is in the Buddha's enlightened body, which has enlightened marks. 32 major and 18 marks of enlightened beings. There are many different enlightened marks, and those enlightened marks, the cause of those enlightened marks are many virtues. It's not the result of one virtue, but it is the result of many virtues, many good positive qualities of goodness of virtues. And many of you are aware, like for example, if you see the Buddha in the pictures or even some others, footprints of Buddha in India, you see some of them in or paintings. There is the Dharma wheel on the feet, and that is kind of enlightened, one of those marks of enlightened beings, so like that, there are many of them, and if someone is more interested in all this 32 major and 18 minor marks, you see in Maitreya's writings. Again, ornament of the realization, you can find more than that. And then if you want to find more details about, in order to have this enlightened measure of minor signs, how many virtues you need to create, how many merit of virtues, then if you read Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, he explained more detail in that, how many different, to each of those major mark and signs, how many virtues of merit you need to create, and what virtues and what merit you need. If you want to have more detail, one can find in those So we don't need to go in that. But if there's interest, then those are the sources where you can find them. And Buddha's enlightened body is such, when you look at that, when you look at the body himself, it makes very peaceful, calm, make your mind very peaceful, calm, soothing, positive compassions, inspirations, just by looking at it. So just by not saying anything, he can inspire so many beings. Just being there, inspire so many beings to be compassionate, to be virtuous, to be kind, to be peaceful. Your mind is disturbed before, and then when you are around, there in front of him, everything just sinks. All these negative feelings, thoughts, all this volcano of all this negative feeling that was going on just stops, and you begin to see what the peace is like, and you inspire, then someone get inspired to have that peace all the time, and that is what is explained in scriptures, even though we have never met the Buddha himself. I've never met myself, but I have a little bit of, there is one statue in Bodh Gaya main temple, and that is supposed to be exactly same the way Buddha looked like, and because it was made under the direction of one old lady who saw Buddha himself. It's made by very artists, great artists, but who have never met Buddha. But there was one old lady who have seen Buddha himself directly. So her describing, the artist making on, so it is most kind of closest that can be of that. And I felt, when in presence of that, and when I do some practice and looking at that, and it just feels so much peace. And it just looks like you just want to just look, and you don't want to go away. It just feels like you just want to stay all the time. There's some kind of that energy, It feels like you don't want to go. You just want to stay there all the time and just gazing at that, looking at that. So much peaceful, so much inspirations, and this is just a statue. This is just a statue, and it is not just my feeling. So many other people feel the same way. So many other people have felt that same way. When we discuss, many have shared same, many of them, that is how they felt the same way. And that is also experienced with a lot of people feel around Dalai Lama. Whether they are Buddhist, non-Buddhist, whether they're believer, non-believer, so many people have felt extremely different energies, peaceful, calm, positive, cheerful, compassions, being just around him in that, Even he doesn't say anything, Those are just looking at his face, looking at his body, and being in that energy. And that is the energy of enlightenment, energy of enlightenment. So that is what is describing here, of that. Your speech satisfy the yearning of countless sentient beings. So again, the Buddha's speech, which 60 melodies qualities, the enlightened being speech is such, even when they say, they give one teaching, one word, one sentence, whatever, everyone can get something from out of it. Everyone can hear something from here, according to their capacity. So in audience, there can be very advanced practitioners, okay? There can be middle practitioners who have reached not very high, but in middle. There can be very beginner practitioner, or they can be non-beginner who haven't even started practicing. There can be all kinds of different audience, but by the end of his teachings, everyone gets something. They learn something. They all can take something. That doesn't happen to everyone's. That cannot, in others, ordinary beings, you can complain, or some says, oh, it's too basic. Some say it's too advanced. Some says, so because not everyone is able to get what they want, never satisfied. For some, it is too advanced. To some, it's too basic. To some, it is too dry. To some, is too, too technical and too academic. To some, oh, why can't it be too technical? Why is it not too, why is so never being able to satisfy all the organs. But the speech of Buddha is such that it satisfied everyone's speech. Everyone learn and get something, no matter what is with each of his speech. That is one of the speech, and of course, the speech itself has very soothing, calming, and inspiring, all of that. And here, is saying satisfied earning of countless sentient beings, meaning what the sentient beings want. The sentient beings want happiness. Every sentient being's earning for happiness. But yearning or yearning? Would you say yearning? Yeah. Everyone's yearning for the happiness, Of course, we can have different levels of happiness. Some people yearning for physical happiness, some mental happiness, some for this life happiness, for some for future happiness, some for happiness of liberation, for some for happiness of fully enlightenment. Everyone's different upon different levels. They have different needs, different yearning for that. But through the Buddha's teaching, it satisfied all different. And within his teachings, you can find all the different methods for all those different levels of happiness. For those who want to achieve enlightenment, fully enlightenment, there is the method that he have taught, the path, the teachings, the meditation, the path, how to achieve that. They can achieve that by following the instructions, the meditations, the method. For those who are not ready for fully enlightenment, but for those who want to have individual liberations, nirvana, again, Buddha has taught the method, the path, the way to do that. And some, they are not even interested of liberations or nirvana. They are just, looking for better life next time. Better and happy next life. And even for that, then again, Buddha has taught certain practice, method, way to achieve that. And for some, they're not even concerned about future life. They want to achieve inner peace, happiness in this life. Even for those, again, there are certain meditation techniques, that Buddha has taught how to find peace, happiness in this life, mental peace, mental happiness, mental joy. So through his teachings, through his speech, of course the teaching comes through the speech, through that, then he has taught many different teachings, many different methods, many different paths, meditations to satisfy those different individuals' yearning of their happiness. So that is what he is saying, that is what's meaning. So such is the, and I think it's absolutely, true, within the many of the Buddhist practice teachings, whether you believe in all of them or not, everyone can take something that is helpful and beneficial to make them more peaceful, more joy, more happy in their life. Whether you believe in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha or not, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, whether you believe in enlightenment or not, still you can find something that can be beneficial and helpful. And of course, for those who have believed in that, there is something also to that. As you see nowadays, the popular secular meditations, mindfulness meditations, which have been practiced by different spiritual path practitioners, different religious practitioners, non-believers of any spiritual practitioners, and what they're finding helpful and beneficial in their life to reduce stress and to find more peace and all of that. They're all basically inspired from the Buddhist meditations on mindfulness. And so they are getting benefit from that. And that is the result of Buddha's speech, his teachings. So, and your mind perceive all objects of knowledge exactly as they are. And so then in terms of the Buddha's mind, then, mainly the three qualities, and especially two, knowing, the true truth, the ultimate and conventional truth as they are, simultaneously at the same time, directly, knowing all the objects as they are, exactly as they are. So in terms of knowing, and in terms of the compassions, unconditional, unlimiting, impartial love and compassion in each and every sentient beings. As it is explained, for Buddha, his love and compassions, there's no difference. Someone who's praising him and someone who's criticizing him. His love and compassion equal to both of them. His love is equal to someone who is trying to harm you physically and someone who is trying to, help his, to bring physical health in him. Equal love and compassion. Someone who believes in him and someone who doesn't believe in him, equal love and compassion. His love and compassion doesn't be less because someone doesn't believe in him, because someone criticizes him or his teachings, or someone dislikes him. His love, the Buddha's love and compassion, equal to all of them. That is the, unconditional love, compassions. Regardless of how others respond to you, it doesn't matter. Your love, compassion, always there. impartial to everyone, Mm. And is limitless, not just sometime, but all the time. So that is, and even in Buddha's own life, stories, so many of them, Devadatta, his cousins, always trying to compete with the Buddha, While they were as a prince, royal prince, he was competing with Buddha because Buddha was a crown prince, he was a cousin, so he wasn't a crown prince, so he always felt jealousy of the Buddha because Buddha was getting more attentions and all that because of his positions. And he was also great in all the things. And he was always jealous and competing with him. And later Buddha left the royal palace and became a monk. And Devadatta also became monk later. But again, even after they became monk, Buddha, who he is, all the disciples all started to respect him and treat him highly, and he didn't get same attentions. Again, there is still jealousy, as competing, and there are times when he tried to take Buddha's life, planning different things many times. One time when Buddha was passing by with his disciple, rolling from very high from there, stone, big rocks rolling down, One time sending wild elephant, when Buddha was coming where they have no place to, is small, narrow, where they don't have place to kind of run away. And so during that time, when he was invited for a lunch by the one king, and under that, then they sent white elephant. So there are many things that he did, trying to take Buddha's own life, But Buddha's love, compassion never lost. And when he got sick, or later, it was the Buddha who took care of him. It was the Buddha who took care of him. So these are some examples of this kind of unconditional love. Even someone who is trying to hurt you, trying to harm you, who is trying to do bad things, even trying to take your life many times, never have any bad feeling, never have grudges, bad feeling, but only love and compassion, only wanting to help and benefit. And even in those, then it was the Buddha, So there are many kind of, we can say, stories, example of like that. Okay. I bow with my head to you, O chief of Shakya clan. So Buddha was born in this particular tribe or clan. Shakya, is the name of the clan or tribe is called Shakya, and so that is why. So it's making a homage and making homage and prostrations. By touching the very most precious and high of your head to his feet. So that is what he's saying on Tsongkhapa here. And then next, after the Buddha, so all this first he paid homage to the lineage gurus or lineage teachers, starting from the Buddha, the founder of the Dharma. And next, you are the most excellent sons of such peerless teachers. So peerless teacher here is referred to Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay, Buddha Shakyamuni is supreme teachers. Even though there are has been so many great teachers in all different spiritual paths, but if you really compare, Buddha was very unique in so many different ways. One of the unique that you find is, many other spiritual teachers and masters, they have same message, in terms of message, same message, that we all need to be compassion, kind, patience, moral discipline, generosity. I think these are the messages that are shared by all different lineage spiritual masters. But most of them, you don't see how do I achieve compassion? How do I achieve patience? How can I become patient? How can I practice moral discipline? They don't explain the method, the way to do that. The Buddhas, he teaches method, the meditations. Not only it says you have to be compassionate. If you are not compassionate, even you want to be compassionate, you cannot be compassionate. So how can I be more compassionate? What is the method? And the meditation, the method explains. So with each of those different qualities, that is one of the unique of the Buddha's teachings. If you compare, you don't find that in many of the other spiritual paths or by their teachings. How to do it, even though they say you have to do that. That is one. And another thing, one of the teachings that Buddha gave, hardly any other teacher taught, is dependent arising, emptiness, dependent arising. That everything is dependent arising. That teachings, is a very unique teachings. You don't find in any other spiritual path by any teachers who explain about that. How everything is dependent arisings. Therefore, we all should be taking care of each other. We all should be taking care of others, means taking care of yourself. Because we all are dependent arising, interrelated, interconnected. We are not isolated with each others. Now at this time in modern science, now science is finding more and more of that. Be in economic, be in climate, be in even in a pandemic. That is what happens. You cannot, if we want to protect ourselves, we have to protect the others. If you don't protect others, you can't, because we are connected, we are related, and it's going to come to you one day. It's a matter of time. You cannot protect yourself unless you protect that. Protecting that is protecting yourself. And I think that has been very clearly exposed in recent time. And that is same in everything, economic, disease, climate, everything, because of nothing's isolated. Everything's interdependent, interconnected. And that being the very truth, reality, on the basis of that truth and reality, we have to take care of each other. We have to protect each other. And then there's where loving kindness, compassion all come from that. And such is another very unique of the Buddha's teachings. So that's why it's peerless teachers. The sons here, it's talking about spiritual son, okay? And so there are two spiritual sons here talking. You carry the burdens of the enlightened activities of the conquerors, trying to carry the message of the Buddhas, the knowledge, the teachings of the Buddhas, spreading it and sharing with others. And in the countless realms, you engage in aesthetic display of emanations, and the bodhisattvas, Maitreya and Manjushri, carrying the Buddha's activities by manifesting in a different manifestation, emanation in different world, different realms, and then carrying and teaching them and appear homage to the old Maitreya and Manjushri. So all the Buddha's teachings, when we kind of summarize, it can be summarized in two things. Teachings that are related with the wisdom and teachings that are related with the method. And when we say method, is the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, generosity, moral discipline, patience, meditative concentration. They all fall in that category of method. So teachings and practice that is related to all of them are in that method lineage. And then those teachings that is related to wisdom in wisdom lineage. And the teaching on wisdom lineage is mainly carried by the Manjushri and spread by the Manjushri. And the teachings on the method side is mainly carried on by the Bodhisattva Maitreya and shared and taught by the Maitreya. So there are the two main Bodhisattvas. There are the two main Bodhisattvas who is carrying the Buddha's teaching. One, the wisdom lineage mainly, and one mainly the method lineage. And for that, then here the author Lama Tsongkhapa pay homage to them, because after the Buddha, they were the most instrument in carrying those teachings. They helped to carry on the Buddha's teachings. So I think today maybe we will kind of stop here. Any questions, comments? Yes, please.
Are there any books where we could see a photograph of the sculpture, the statue that you were talking about in the main temple of Shakyamuni Buddha that you said was made by an artist that heard the description of the old
I don't know whether there is there are many different small books on different pilgrimage of holy sites in India and Buddhist holy sites. I don't know in English, but I think you will probably find many of them. I'm not sure, but I've seen in Tibetans, and it is small, and there are many different kind of pilgrimage, Buddhist pilgrimage books, collections. And in some of them, they describe about that. There is some dispute whether it's this same statues. Some said during what time this statue was taken, and then they made the new ones. And some say it is the same statues. So there is seems to be a little bit of two different view on that. But whether it's the actual original or whether it was created later when original taken by someone and destroyed someone by, because I think maybe around 12th, 13th centuries, Turkish came and destroyed Nalanda monasteries and many of the Buddhist sites at that time, and it could have been destroyed at that time. I'm not 100% sure. A lot of things had been destroyed, damaged during those that kind of invasions by the Turkish army at that time. But definitely, I've seen there are two different where some say is the original same that was made, and then some say is not the original were taken away or destroyed something, and then it was made similar to the original one. But is the man in the main temple? It will be in the main temple, the main, yeah. Okay. Any others? Questions, comments? Then we can do the dedications.
Okay, on page 235. Do we always do a list? Oh, a list. I don't know that we have a new list. We have a list. I think might be from August. I'm not sure. But I can read it anyway. Yes. Okay. For those with obstacles, we have Siri, Alyssa, Laura, Maureen, Maggie, Jim Bailey, SJ, Mimi, Antinaz, Dasha, Katya, Deb, John, Jiwan, Sean, Mara, Bill, Jana, and Jeffrey.
Did you add Vivian to that?
Anybody else? Okay. For illness, Syrian person who has had 2 fingers amputated, all people injured in Ukraine. Walter, Dorcas, David, Patty, Alan, Gregory, Arrow the dog, Irma, Diane, Kathy A, Randy R, Lisa C, Leah Sherab, Jack, Lyra, Ed Hamlin, Rolf, Sujata, and John Bailey.
Alejandro Gonzalez, and all the Russian and Ukrainian soldiers.
Those who've recently died, Claire, 3 people who died in the flash flood, 4 people who have died in the war in Ukraine, wildlife who died in unsuitable environments, Frankie the dog, Laura, Chuck, Rudabeh Alam, Michael Malone, Laura, and Dale.
Myra.
Suzanne.
Okay, with those people and all the sentient beings in mind, we'll go to page 235 and we'll recite the first 2 paragraphs in English. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of the Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that does not arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Then on page 244, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And you should have a page paper clipped, and that's the prayer of His Holiness that we'll read. The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Then on page 282, for Rosahito.
Are we doing Lama's Rinpoche? 244?
On page 244, is that where Lama wrote? No, wait. 244, absolutely right. You uphold subduers moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjuna's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers, honoring the 3 jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. And now, page 282, for the first paragraph for Rosahito. Venerable one,
To you, whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us and intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request. O Lama, please live long.
May our venerable Lama's lives be firm, their white divine actions spread in the 10 directions. And the torch of Losang's teachings, dispelling the darkness of the 3 worlds beings, always remain. In all future lives, may we never be parted from the perfect lamas and pure ways of the Dharma. May we gain every experience of the path and stages, and quickly attain the stage of whole Dharma knowledge.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you.
Geshe.
Good to see all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.